This is No Etiquette, the podcast where we address modern etiquette questions in a nonsense fashion. I'm Vivian Lee, coming to you from Singapore, and joining me on the line is my best friend, Sophia Bose in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Hi, Sophia.
Hi, Vivian.
Here we are, ready to discuss in jiffy fashion what to do with odd compliments.
Yes, Vivian, I need your help.
You look very serious, and we have wanted to do this for some time. This unfortunate odd compliment story has brewed while we could not get to it. Is it still bothering you? Is it still chafing at you?
Well, the idea of it chafes at me, but I have completely forgotten the exact odd compliment. I remember it bothered me. I told you about it, and then we sort of noted it to write it down, but now I can't remember what that compliment was.
Well, that's okay. We'll start from the top. It may come back to you.
Okay.
You may have buried it, which is an acceptable way of dealing with things we don't want to deal with sometimes.
Yeah.
Let's start from the top.
Yeah. Let's start from the top. Of what?
Someone who lived in your building. This person who lived in your building.
Oh, okay. I'll tell you the whole. Okay. So there's someone who lives in this building. I feel like part of me is still hoping that you remembered, but we are.
That I remembered the compliment you told me about, but did not tell me about exactly.
Yeah, you know, like how they say, like when you get married or something, like the 60%, like there's some sort of like memory rule where you plan to sort of remember half the things and the other person remembers the other half, and together there's a complete picture. But I think it's true. So like there's specific things that one person will remember and the other person knows this person has remembered it, and so they will not try to remember it. And so together you have it like a fuller picture of something, but it's sort of anyway, I think I do this to you sometimes. Like I think because you'll remember it, blah, 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 and then I'll be like, oh, okay, she'll remember it. But yes.
But it backfires when you don't actually tell me the thing.
Exactly. There you go. That's when it backfires. Because when I do tell you, you remember with like surprising accuracy. Okay, I'll try. I think it'll come back as I describe it. There's a woman who lives in the building that I live in, and she is, she's very. So my understanding is that she's a little bit less rent than the others in order to take care of like rolling out the trash to the curb on trash day and bringing it back in. And I think she vacuums certain common areas. So she does some very light sort of maintenance of the building in compensation, like for a reduced rent. I don't even know what the amount is, and I'm not even sure how I know this. Either someone must have told us. But we were having, it's a good deal, right? And I don't know by how much, but I'm sure, it's something.
I was going to say like Thomas Anderson in The Matrix, but he didn't vacuum corridors, to my understanding.
Oh my gosh. I didn't know that he paid reduced rent. Oh, was it because he paid
No, I don't know. But in the first Matrix, when Agent Smith arrests him and they take him to the room with all the screens, which by the way is a preview of the Architect's room. The view of it when you first zoom in, there's all these screens. That is actually showing you. It's a hint about the Architect.
Oh, I got supposedly chills when you just said that.
Yeah, I mean, who knows how much the two sequels they planned at the time?
No, they must have planned some of it. No.
I don't believe all of it entirely. Like maybe they had that idea kind of in the back of their heads. But anyway, so there's all the monitors, and Agent Smith sits him down and like opens his file on him, and he's talking about all the normal nice things he does, like you pay your taxes, like you go to church. No, the church part is later. No, and I was there, and you help your landlady take out her garbage.
Oh my God!
You know what I'm talking about, right?
I know exactly what you're talking about. Oh, this is great. Yeah. It didn't. Oh wow. Okay, like Thomas Anderson.
Yeah, and like we devoured that line in fan fiction because it proved he was a really nice guy.
Wow.
I don't really know about anything about him.
Love this. I would not. Yeah, this is not like I don't. Now that you say it, especially with that voice, completely remember that. But at the moment, I don't remember it.
No, there's a lot of fics about like Trinity noticing this about him and knowing that he's a good guy.
Oh, well, yeah. So in that case, he's probably not getting compensated in any fashion.
Yeah, he's just doing it out of the goodness of his heart.
Yeah. don't know that this woman is doing the goodness of her heart since she is getting reduced rent for this.
Which is a very
Um,
good deal. I would totally do a little bit of, especially if it's not particular, like rolling garbage cans in. You do that for your own place. Like that's
you have
not,
to, right? Yeah,
yeah, and like vacuum. That's
yeah,
barely. I feel like I've done that already in buildings I lived in without slightly reduced rent. Good
yeah,
for her.
yeah. Good for her.
So her name is. I remember you told me her name. It is Beverly Ann.
Yes. So Beverly Ann. Uh, so she, so so for all intents and purposes, she's the kind of person who typically I would say you and I would get along with. Maybe, so she's sort of like she does all these different things. Like she's like a belly dancer. I think she does like henna for people. Okay, maybe you and I would. Okay, she has a lot, that I think potentially friends with someone like that. So she has a website and she lists these things, myriad things she does. She's a singer, she's a dancer, she does like henna tattooing on people, for which I have kind of slightly ambivalent feelings about, given it feels sort of appropriation-y, but whatever. Um, and in addition to taking out the rolling the trash to the curb and such. But she has this way of being very complimentary, um, and richly complimentary. Like it's typically when you talk with someone, they'll give you one or two compliments. She tends to give quite a lot of compliments, but for some reason, her compliments make me uncomfortable. And I remember speaking with you because I remember being befuddled at how much I know myself and I lap compliments up. I am one of those people who will listen to compliments, smile, and ask for more and thank you, but for some reason, hers have always like discomfited me and I couldn't understand why. And so I kind of described, I think, a few of them to you or one of them to you, and you said you had some ideas behind it. And I really want to know what your thoughts are. But so what was the one that she gave me that really sort of stuck with me?
It was the garage sale day. She was selling stuff and you went to get your package.
Yes, I was going down to get a package. Oh, and she complimented my hair, I think, or my
Okay.
outfit, or something like that. She was like, "Oh, like you're always dressed so nice," or "Always dressed so nice," or like, "Oh, your hair looks so good," or something like that. And then, um, I think, oh, we have a laundry situation where we only have two machines, and the machines require coins.
Oh,
And usually at this
quarters?
point, quarters, yes, they require quarters. And the problem is that like most apartment buildings these days in Ann Arbor that require quarters have there's like a app that you can
Yeah.
pay.
Yeah.
And so you don't need to do the quarter situation.
Yeah.
And so I was like, hey, there's like an app. Like, why don't we just ask the landlord if he can like maybe he can install that thing on the laundry machines. And she was like, "Oh, believe me, last year all the tenants we got together and we tried and it didn't work." And I was like, "Really? Like why?" And she was like, "I don't know." And then she said, "But you could try it. He'll listen to you." And I remember being very confused and a little bit
Hmm?
like yeah. And so she'll say all these things, but then I slightly come away from it feeling weird.
Hmm.
So that is as much as I remember.
Hmm.
Yeah, so bunch of- um I think there's also at some point like there's like a party for everyone in the apartment, and she asked some question. I think I knew I think it was like I knew somebody who lived in the building,
Mm-hmm.
and she asked me how I knew that, and I said I looked up like who the neighbors were in the building before like moving in.
Mm-hmm.
And then she sort of was like, "Oh, like you're like a spy or something." Like I don't know. She said something in a way that
Hmm.
could have been complimentary, but somehow it just struck me
Hmm.
as
Mm-hmm.
every positive thing comes with this like it's not a backhanded compliment either, because it's not like she'll say it with yeah. So anyway, odd compliments. What are your thoughts? I have rambled.
No, you're fine. You had to kind of. I think what's tricky about a compliment that makes you feel uncomfortable is when you can't put your finger on it directly, right? Like there's something, you have this feeling. It's not
Yeah.
even always necessarily in the words, it can be in the manner. And actually, as soon as you said, I was kind of like listening and thinking like, okay, what could be happening? What could be happening? When you said the one about oh my gosh, what when you said like not after he'll listen to you, the other ones were both
Spy
really
one?
the spy one. There's something about the tone. Okay, both of them together. I suddenly remembered this woman I used to know, kind of like friend of a friend, would sometimes see her at gatherings. Not very close, and she was a little
Yeah.
bit older than me. Like we had a slightly different life situation, so we weren't very. You couldn't look at us immediately and be like, "Oh, you guys are sort of in the same life stage."
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I
Yeah.
think it was something she was a little self-conscious about, as most of us were younger.
Yeah.
But we always got along just fine. But
Yeah.
sometimes when she had been drinking, she would come over and give me she would say slightly odd things. I remember one time she came over,
Uh-huh.
I think maybe I had just gotten into graduate school. Something had worked out for me. And she came over and
Uh-huh.
said something like, "You're really lucky, aren't you?" Just like
Oh
it
my
was sort of a
goodness.
compliment. And I know she didn't super dislike, she didn't envy me, but just like when she'd been drinking, she would
Yeah.
say things that were like sounded kind of nice, but just gave you this like
Yeah.
something is
Yeah.
not
Oh,
going right in
exactly
this
right.
interaction.
Uh-huh.
Um, and like I got the sense that even she was unhappy. She wasn't saying this because
Yeah.
she was unhappy. But
Right. Yeah.
like that would happen. So it can be a few things. I think sometimes it can be um sometimes people envy you, and envy doesn't have to just be. I was reading about envy recently. It
Ooh.
can be a combination of like I want the thing you have, or it can be like I don't think you deserve the thing you have. Or
Uh-huh.
Brene Brown, I was reading Atlas of the Heart, which was really good, but um
Uh-huh.
she had this really interesting point about resentment, which was that
Uh-huh.
resentment is a form of envy because it's when we see somebody else has something we want but are afraid
Yeah.
to ask for ourselves because we feel like we don't deserve it,
Ah,
or some other reason, any kind of reason. But that was how she broke resentment down. That was kind of life changing for me.
that is quite good. Well, that is quite good. And you're right, Vivian. Because this connects with another, so this sort of host of weird compliments, right?
Hmm.
From a different friend.
Mm.
Um, I had, I, so I walk a lot since I don't drive.
Hmm.
And for some reason, I wear shoes out very fast.
Uh,
And I have like boots, but they're kind of inflexible. So they're great in like cold weather and things like that, but like they're not super good for like walking necessarily.
sure. Yeah.
They don't feel very good after in the
Hmm.
end. So I bought some new shoes. I bought some walking shoes. I like looked up what the like I don't know what is recommended to buy if you
Yeah.
walk a lot. And I bought these pair of shoes and they're really colorful and they're bright. And I met with this friend and she saw the shoes and she immediately said, "Oh, you've made another expensive purchase."
Oh my
And that was
gosh.
it. Like that was it. And I was just like, and I guess this wasn't even a compliment, but like it was one like but this particular friend has said things like this
Oh yeah.
about other things. Like
Wow.
so but right now just exactly what you said about Brene Brown, it like
Mm.
actually just connected for me, which is that
Hmm.
potentially she would want to be able to get XYZ things, but maybe doesn't
Yeah.
feel like she can for one reason or the other, though she,
Yeah.
right? And then
Yeah.
resents the like I think maybe it's coming from there.
Yeah, I think so. And it could be, it might not be, I don't know this friend at all. It might not even be financial, right? It's just like you don't feel like you can buy yourself nice things. Like I do this a lot. Like, like you don't feel that you
Yeah.
get to have that. So, but then when you see other people having it, you feel very resentful. And sometimes it just
Yeah.
cannot help but emerge. I think that's one form of the compliment. Gosh, when you said that with this friend, yeah, that's not even it. Um, I can see how another person could have twisted it into a fake compliment of like, you're always buying such expensive things.
Yeah, yeah,
There's a way
yeah,
to kind
yeah.
of make it seem as if you're, like, ooh, what is this? Another expensive present, right? Like,
Vivian.
uh,
So she did the ooh part. Yeah, so
ooh,
that was the part that made me, yeah. She's like, ooh, right? And then
yeah.
she was like, another expensive.
Oof.
Like, so there was ooh, but then it was followed by that. So
Yeah.
there's ooh, but like, is she complimenting the colors? Because I
No.
personally love the colors. They're like
Yeah.
bright blue and pink, and they're great. So yeah, no, what you said, the ooh, yes, the ooh was the part that was like kind of complimentary, but then twists into
Yeah.
I'm not sure what.
Yeah. So I think that's one version of a compliment that makes you uncomfortable is there's actually there's resentment. It may not even be a dig and attack. Like that's why I think I remembered that friend of mine. I don't think she really holds
Mm,
any particular ill will to her. Like I liked her very much. I thought it
yeah,
was great. Like I think we were fine, but
yeah,
resentment can be how you feel about yourself, right? And sometimes that just
yeah,
happens to get on someone else.
yeah,
So that's one version. It's worse if it's a compliment because you're masking it and you're trying to make it seem like you're participating in a friendly interaction, but actually you are taking a stab at another person. Um,
okay, I just had a thought while you were talking.
yeah.
I wonder, you know how you said it's almost worse if it's masking itself as a
Hmm.
compliment, right?
Yeah.
Um, right now, though, as I'm thinking, I'm realizing it's probably the most honest thing, correct? Like, so with this friend, right? So she saw the shoe, she was impressed with it, like, there was some value given to it,
Hmm.
and then there was also, I think, the combined like, oh, this is an expensive thing you've also bought, and so she basically told me her entire reaction, like the full thing, correct? Like this
Yeah.
is the spectrum of her, like, because right when you see something, so she felt all those things and she accurately
Hmm.
told me exactly what she was feeling.
Hmm. But it's an odd thing to
Um,
tell you.
yeah, it's an odd thing, but at the same time, there's an intimacy to it. So there's like I'm like, this is my whole reaction. Like she's not trying to hide it.
Hmm.
Like,
Hmm.
yes, surely it doesn't make me feel great necessarily,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it's giving me a very full picture of her being at the present, which itself is kind of like it's a generous thing to do. It's easy to hide.
Okay, maybe it's an authentic thing to do, but if it's something that might make the other person feel a little, you know, guilty or bad or weird or something, I don't think it's a nice thing to say to somebody else.
No, I don't think it's nice
Yeah.
necessarily. I don't think
Yeah.
it's nice at all. I,
Yeah.
uh, Yeah, I don't think it's not. Okay, okay. Well, okay, so sorry. This links with something else, and I want to ask you about this as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's nice. But I'm wondering, like, like, should maybe I focus a little bit more on the authenticity piece of it, simply because, and I'll give you
Mm.
another example. When I was looking for apartments, I toured one apartment that was in this like super fancy building.
Hmm.
It was close to downtown. I wouldn't have to walk very much, so that's why I like checked it out. But it was like it had like three separate locked entrances. Like if you wanted to get in, there's the outside entrance,
Hmm.
which you needed, I think, a code. Then there's a second entrance for which you needed a key. And then there's like a third entrance for which you needed something. Oh, it was a whole thing. So even to just look at it, because once you get inside, like
Hmm.
every level has like some sort of lounge that's like filled with like lots of expensive snacks and there's like a free gym. So it's like once you go inside, there's like infinite resources that are like open to anyone who lives there, right?
Yeah.
And so
Okay.
in order to get in, even
Mm.
you, um, and so I remember the person giving me the tour. At some point, I was like, wow, it's like really hard to get in. And she was like, yeah, it's like Fort Knox. And then I remember thinking afterwards, I was like, is that what you want to say to somebody who is going to look at an apartment? Because like nobody wants to feel like they live in like a jail or like in a detention center, right? And then I remember that like rubbed me like for a long time I'd think about it. I was like that's poor training or blah blah blah. But then I very recently realized I was like, hey, you know what? Like she was so honest.
Mm. Mm. No, that's one
Type
thing.
something.
Yeah. No, no, I was looking at Fort Knox because I think isn't it? It's not a jail, right? It's sort of like it's next to like a place that holds a lot of gold. I'm looking up from like a
Ah,
very quick.
it was
Yeah,
a treasury. Okay, okay,
yeah. It's
okay.
some kind of yeah. It's like a vault. It's
Well,
not. It's not
uh,
a detention
not a
facility or
jail type.
anything.
Okay, okay, okay. Got it.
So I think
Oh,
it's
that's
not
good. That's
really.
good.
Yeah, yeah. It's not. It's sort of when you say something's Fort Knox. It's like very secure. It's locked up tight. It's
Ah,
not. Saying that it's
I
a
connected it with the military. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, it is military. Yeah, for sure. Um, it's a funny
that's
sign with like real estate agents, right? Because they're both trying to like really butter the place up, but they're trying to be like
uh-huh,
a little like buddy buddy with you because they like that's
uh-huh,
another
uh-huh.
form of rapport. And one of the ways is like slightly making fun of a place, right? Like, like maybe you
Uh,
go in and you're like, yeah, I'm sorry. Look, the stairs are really narrow. But once you get
yeah, yeah,
upstairs, it's beautiful, right? Like you're
yeah.
trying to do a version
Yeah,
of
yeah.
like I think part of trying to win
Ah,
your trust over is by being to some degree like able to commiserate with what you see are the disadvantages of the place, and then like getting that person on your side, and then you sell them the advantages, I think.
Oh my gosh, this is so good. See, like I wouldn't have known because I didn't even look it up. I just like thought for some reason already assumed it was some sort of detention thing because all I know is that it was military something, and
Yeah,
in my
you're
head
right.
it didn't the treasury piece of it.
No, but interesting sales tact. Oh, huh. But anyway, back to compliments, back to sort of reasons for why a compliment might land a little wrong, or
Yeah.
like I think you have a good feeling about. I think most people do when something is not quite a compliment. I think this is not the case with Beverly Ann, but insincerity,
Uh,
especially the kind when, if someone's being like a mean girl in front of their friends and they say something like,
yeah.
your hair looks good today. And she
Yeah.
thinks your hair looks bad and she's doing it to make fun of you in front of other people, right? Like that's
Yeah,
an
yeah, yeah.
obvious kind of
That's separate. Yeah. Yeah.
not a real compliment.
Right, right,
I
right.
think the other kinds of compliments sometimes that have made me uncomfortable where people are so effusively positive about you and you know that they're reading you wrong.
Huh. Like tell me
Yeah.
more.
Maybe one. I don't know if this is exactly quite there. So I think people are very sincere, but sometimes I'll if I have some kind of speaking event or I, do some kind of
Uh-huh.
thing,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
sometimes people will compliment me and they'll say something like, you seemed really confident. And I might say, well, I was very nervous, and which is very
Yeah.
normal standard public speaking. And then they assure me, no, you seemed very confident. Great. And I know
Yeah.
they're sincere because I do the exact same thing to other people. I know
Yeah.
that I
Yeah.
go up to and I say, you sounded great. And they'll say, I was very nervous. And I
Yeah.
say, you were fine.
Yeah.
But it can
Yeah.
land a little, it can sort of feel like it isn't correct, right? Or
I see why you're saying this. Because
yeah.
it's as though to say there would have been a right. It's like why would you like if you're already confident then why specifically single that out in some way?
Not as bad as that. More just like it doesn't feel it doesn't feel correct.
Yeah, no, because I actually do that thing too, right? Like I was like, oh, you seem so confident.
Yeah. Which I
I'm
think
trying to
that I mean that's a really minor example. I'm trying to think of a better. But those don't make me uncomfortable in the way that you've been describing. It's more of just like it's a little bit of a swing and a miss, which is harmless. I think that's
Mm,
yeah.
mm.
There's no, like that's not going to keep me up at night. I think the worst ones are when you
Actually,
feel there's something unpleasant going on with the compliment,
yeah.
whether intentionally or knowingly or not.
Yeah. You said something just a little earlier about the delivery, like the tone
Mm,
of it.
mm,
I actually think that plays a bigger role than the words itself.
yes, huge. It's
I
true.
think that's what it is. I
Mm,
don't actually think it's even the words, right? It's like there's a way you can be like, oh, you're like a spy versus oh, you're like a spy.
yeah.
Like there's like you can
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, you can say the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the tone. It's partly the tone.
Yeah. And there's probably just something going on with Beverly Ann. I can think of some other people where just like your interactions seem fine, and then they say something that's just a little, even
Yeah,
though what
like I
you're
think the
saying
same.
seems, yeah. Mm.
Sorry, I think I interrupted.
No. I was kind of wrapping up. That was it. Yeah. And it's repeated interactions with this person, right? That you're
Yeah,
getting
because she
that
did the
from.
same thing with something I was wearing. I think she was just like, "Oh, you're
Mm.
always dressed so nice," or something. It was very interesting.
Mm. Yeah.
Interesting in the sense that
Something
I
going on
couldn't
there.
read what she meant. Yeah, what
Yeah,
did she
and
mean?
and like that kind of thing, it really might not be you, you know? Like it's about them. Something's going on
Yes,
inside.
yes, something is going on inside.
Yeah.
There's a resentment type situation happening,
Yeah.
I
Or
think.
something, like maybe it's not resent, maybe it's something else, but it's you happen to
Yeah,
cross
yeah.
you just land in the path at the moment.
Yes, yes,
Hmm.
yeah. Um, yeah, it is a tone thing.
Handle it when it happens.
How to handle it when it happens.
Yeah, what do you do?
Oh, what do I do? What do I do? Well, what I did with Beverly Ann was specifically when she said,
Like Sam Beverly Ann, I go like, "Oh, you're always dressed so nice."
I think I said something. I think what I said was like, I think I complimented her. I think I was like, oh, like, I think I complimented something that she was wearing, or I think I returned the compliment.
Yeah, just bounced
I
it
think
back.
I did. Basically, I pretended I didn't read the other part of it. I usually just pretend I didn't see the other part of it. Yeah.
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 This
What
it
do
just
you do?
sounded, it just your reaction reminded me of this. I was at a writing retreat, and at the time people were discussing this male author. They were accusing him of sexism, and it came out later that he had done some pretty unpleasant sexist things. So they were not wrong, but it was at the time it was more of like a vibe, I guess, or a conjecture, like reading between the lines of his work. Maybe you got the sense. And she had such a great way of putting it. She was like, it's like in his work, there's like the little ramen packet of seasoning, like when you're making instant ramen, there's like little seasoning packet, and she's like, you could say there's like this little seasoning packet of sexism, and if you want, you can tear it open and get into it, and if not, you can just like put it aside and like keep reading his work. And that
That's
occurred.
such a great.
It was such a good analogy, and this person that came up with that on the fly, and it was so creative and smart. And I could tell like she was like pleasantly. I don't. It had the air of someone coming up with it on the spot and being happily pleased with their fun analogy. And all of us were like, yeah, this is good. But I've thought of it, and I've wanted to reuse it some other time, and I can't. But credit to her. But I feel like that's what you're doing with Beverly Ann's compliments. You're like, I see the ramen packet of seasoning that I don't want, and I'm going to leave it aside, and I'll just like, why, thank you, Beverly Ann. You too look lovely today. And just like set it aside. Don't even open the ramen packet. You see it's there. Don't open it.
I'm going to write down this ramen packet thing. This just made my day. This is great. This is so good. I'm going to write this down. I must. Okay, I'm done writing it down.
No, you're good. I think I like this analogy because I tend to be quite a non-confrontational person. To my detriment, as you know, I'm trying to be more assertive this year. I think it's good. I think speaking up is good. I think quite often it's the case. But I tend to think quite highly of people who just avoid getting into fights. I think, I think it's quite a good social skill to just most of the time get along. Of course, there's times when you should not, but, or you should raise an issue.
Yeah.
But many other times, it is quite good to just skate by and not let things come to a boil, I think. And so that is why I like this ramen seasoning packet idea of many social
I really like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it extends beyond the social situations thing, right? It's like there's so much in life that there's so many seasoning packets laying around, right? Like everything has, and like how you're making your ramen, like it really does. Like, are you going to just like open up every random seasoning packet that's there? You're gonna try and make your own seasoning? Like, it's a whole thing. It's good.
Oh, you want to extend the metaphor? Okay, so you could say you're given a seasoning packet. Some of them are good, some of them are not very good, and it's up if you want. You can do a phrase you taught me, which is you can make church up ramen, which you say is a Midwestern phrase. I never heard it while I was there, but it.
I don't know if it's Midwestern. I have a certain friend that said it, and I just assumed it was Midwestern because from the Midwest. I think it's just maybe even a her thing.
But I loved it. It's like she uses it when she just like you take the instant ramen, but you do good things with it, right? Like you put in like real vegetables.
Yeah.
Or whatever else, like you put in like chicken broth. I don't know. You church it up. Yeah. You put in an egg.
Ramen is such a good sort of like vehicle for metaphor.
It is. It's a tasty, comforting base, and then you can take it further. So I think I'm also saying this is probably that's the approach I take. Like if someone gives me a weird compliment, I maybe return one, or I just say like, oh, you're right, I changed the subject, and then I try to just get out of there. I just don't want to be in that conversation.
Yeah.
It's not going somewhere I want to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that is very high etiquette, Vivian. Seasoning packet.
It's high etiquette. So good. Etiquette is just like kind of eel-y, just like just slippery and escaping. But okay, but we'll just leave it off. Are there any? I'm trying to think if there are any. We can end it on a more positive note. Do you have a certain type of compliment you especially like to receive?
There's this very specific kind of there's one compliment I've received a lot in my life. Like this is I would say the compliment I received the most.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow I like it every time I get it. Doesn't matter how many times I've heard it. Um, it's like when people compliment your affect, right? So like people like I've always sort of cherished compliments where like, oh, you make people feel so good, or like
Ah.
you're so joyous, or like you make everyone feel so happy when that you've seen them, or something like that. Like a
Hmm.
compliment that sort of describes how like the whatever some sort of positive impact that you've had on that person. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like less just about you, but also how
Mm.
you have made the person giving it feel.
Mm. And that's
I really
information
like those.
you don't have about yourself, right?
Correct. Yeah. Right.
Or kind of.
Right?
I
Because
mean,
you don't, yeah,
you
yeah.
don't
You
always
wouldn't
know the
know, right?
effect you have on other people. Yeah.
Correct. Yes, it's
Mm.
information you didn't know about yourself that's
Mm-hmm.
like positive. Yeah, that's the kind of compliment. What about you?
That's good. I I really like yours about the impact you have on other people. I think that's a great kind of compliment.
Isn't
It's a really good one
it?
because it's not just like you've had this impact on other people, but I've noticed it and I want to take the time
Yeah.
to tell you because you might not know
Yeah.
because most of the time we don't.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't know how we're impacting other people. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, unless we're told.
Yeah, especially in an affect way. Like that's, it's one of
Yeah.
those things where um people really do change the atmosphere of a group right when they join. Everybody does in
Yeah.
some way. But that is
Yeah.
what you
Yeah.
most do not know about yourself because you are you.
Right.
Like you bring yourself in wherever you go.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. You don't know the seasoning packet that you're bringing in.
Oh
You have
yeah.
seasoning packet, but you just don't know what the seasoning is. You
I
thought you
guess.
think you do.
I was thinking of like a smell or something. It's like, you bring a smell with you into it. Like
Ah,
a perfume or like not a bad
yeah,
smell, but
yeah,
like it's
yeah.
but you can't smell it yourself. But yeah, your seasoning packet. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's yeah, you're
Yeah.
like here we are like if scattering our seasoning packet and we don't know what it is and what it comes across to other people. Is it too much? Is it too salty?
Yeah.
Is it like
Right. Because you don't know their palate.
yeah, you don't know. You don't know your own seasoning packets. So, okay, so when other people can tell you,
Yeah.
that's very good. Um,
Yeah.
I can think of, as I was asking the question, there's two kinds of compliments. I like yours better actually, but there's two specific categories that came to mind. Um,
Uh-huh.
the first is when I realize when I do this thing when somebody compliments me, I tend to pull out more insecurity because I think I want the insecurity comforted. But it's sometimes
Ah.
that's an annoying thing to deal with if you're somebody else. I want a lot of reassurance. And so, um, often when someone compliments me, I pull out more insecurities to try to get more
Mhm.
compliments out.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
but I can think of some times when people have done that and truly, sincerely, and in ways that really like shifted something for me. So there was a time I was in some kind of it was great. It was a church I volunteered with the kids Sunday school, and we had
Uh-huh.
gone for I had just great experiences, all the way through. But they had given us and it was optional, but like they gave us a little training, which has never
Uh-huh.
happened to me in all the ways I've
Oh.
worked with children. But like there were a
Yeah.
couple of sessions. Like one time they paid for us to have like emergency like CPR training, which was very sweet of them. They
Okay.
just covered it and we're
Yeah.
like, why not have some
Yeah.
CPR training? And one
Yeah.
of the people who was there just volunteered and taught it. But there
Uh-huh.
was something to do with like just like managing kids and it was all these like parents.
Uh-huh.
They gave great. They were so good about it.
Yeah.
But somehow it came up and I said to them, like I don't think I'm a very fun person. I really feel this. I'm not particularly fun
Uh-huh.
as an adult with other adults.
Uh-huh.
I'm definitely not fun
Uh-huh.
with kids. I'm not the kind of adult who's the fun with kids adults. And I was like, I've accepted this
Um,
about myself. I can do other things, but I'm not naturally
uh-huh.
fun, and I
Uh-huh.
don't enjoy being fun with
I'm
kids
like
a lot.
I'm expending a lot of effort to not jump in and contradict you because I think you're really fun and I know you're like, oh, this is the reassurance part, but like, no.
But I can say I do feel it with children. I don't like running games. I don't like losing control. I don't
Uh-huh.
like
Uh-huh.
I want them to have
Mhm.
fun, but I'm not the person who's naturally good at running the fun. Some people are. They
Yeah, yeah,
really are.
yeah.
So okay,
Yeah.
so I'm not that
Yeah,
person. So
yeah.
I explain all this and
Uh-huh.
and the woman just looks at me and she goes, "But you know what? You're like the calm pillar. Some kids really need the
Uh,
calm center, and you are that for those kids." And that really changed the way I saw
Um,
myself. And I was like, great. I'll be the calm pillar. This is great. This is good. I can be the calm pillar, and I don't have to feel bad that I'm not the naturally fun person anymore. Like someone else can be that.
yeah.
So that was
Oh
like
my
when someone
gosh.
takes something you feel insecure about and like really puts the most, it's not even a positive thing. It's really saying like this is the strength of it that you did not see about
Yeah.
yourself, and now you can lean into it. So that was one.
It's
Um,
beautiful.
it was great. And then the other kind I think that is really precious, if people can give it, is when someone is able to affirm something about you that you
Mhm.
maybe know, you maybe don't, but something you like about yourself that
Yeah.
like doesn't always get noticed, right? Or that you don't know if people are
Uh,
noticing. It's something you
yeah.
really
Yeah.
enjoy about yourself and people. Someone else
Yeah.
acknowledges that and so it pays you a compliment
Yeah.
about it. And I think for me,
Yeah.
yeah, it's one of those things. Uh, we before as we were starting this recording, we were talking about being like self-conscious about your voice. Sometimes I think I
Uh-huh.
have a good voice, sometimes I don't. Like sometimes I think I'm a good presenter, sometimes I think I say like too much. Maybe this is very
Uh-huh.
normal. I think this is many performers say this, like great
Absolutely.
performers say this about themselves. Um,
Uh-huh.
but just every so often I would get some kind of compliment about like, oh, you read that really well. Or like sometimes people have said like you would do like good audiobook recordings. And I've never done that.
Oh,
But that like all of that stacked up and I think at some point
yeah.
gave me like the feeling that I should do the podcast. So
That's so wonderful.
it was very
Yeah,
wonderful of those
you do have
people.
an extraordinarily good radio
Thank
voice.
you.
It's
Thank
true.
you.
Oh my goodness.
You pay many
I
compliments.
really like your examples. I really do. I love your examples. Like especially, especially the first one because while you were
Mm,
explaining it to me, like I actually had a realization about I actually had quite a profound realization like about how I handle children, which is about
mm,
exactly how you do it.
mm,
I'm not for somebody who's very like typically I'm childish in many ways, but around children I cannot like I'm not the fun like I don't know how to play games with them. It's just like I treat them like little tiny adults, which they're not, and it's just like the weirdest thing because yeah, other people are usually like thinking, oh, Sophia's gonna be so good with kids because she's into toys or whatever. Um, but I just realized what you said about like your friend saying some children need a calm center.
mm-hmm,
Um, this just made me realize, again, this is slightly off topic, but it made me realize something. My mom was always very, um, she doesn't play with children. She never played with
mm-hmm,
us.
mm-hmm,
But she was always very consistent in there.
mm-hmm,
And I realized, like, when I'm with a kid, I do the same thing my mom did to me. I'm very
mm-hmm,
consistent and I'm there. Like, I'll tell them I care, like, and I'm there for them, but I don't play with them. And
mm,
so it just made me realize that maybe the way in which we interact with children has a lot to do with how like we've been interacted with as children maybe
for
or
sure.
like I don't know.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Huh, man,
yeah.
that makes sense. So you're very there for children, you know?
I'm
That's
very
good.
there, but I will not play with them for the life of me. I'm like, why won't you play with
Yeah.
them?
No, but I like your style of compliment. I think the theme of today has been ramen seasoning packet.
Ramen seasoning packet all the way. It's so good.
And
I almost want to make a motivational poster about the ramen seasoning packet. I need to think about the best.
would it be sort of like, I don't know, you go through life as a ramen seasoning packet, be a good ramen seasoning.
Something like that, yeah, with like a funny like illustration, and then just like print it out in some sort of mid-century minimalist type way, and then just like frame it. And instead of having like relax, be cheerful, like like be a good ramen seasoning packet.
Be a good ramen seasoning. Okay, last little diversion. Do you have a favorite ramen
Uh-huh.
seasoning packet type?
No, I don't. Do you?
Do you like ramen seasoning packets in general?
Yeah, I'll use them. Like I don't have any
You
feeling.
don't have
Like
feelings about them?
my mom used to throw them away. She used to throw them away, so I often throw them away. But
Like she would throw them
I
away
guess
and then
that's very
like you would
symbolic too.
I know,
She
yeah,
just make her
right.
own. Oh my God. Deeply symbolic. Yes, she would just make her own.
You were processing your relationship with your mother today. But
Things
okay,
you bring out in me, Vivian.
actually, okay, this is slightly making me. I'm thinking about the ways my mom made instant ramen, and
Uh-huh.
I sometimes we would. Okay, this was a lot of times what my mom would do is she wouldn't make the soup because especially if you're
Yeah.
buying like not such good ramen seasoning, like the seasoning can be really
Yeah, yeah,
gross,
yeah.
really gross.
Yeah.
like just to,
Yeah.
like MSG. And so a lot of times when we were going, we would buy like a cheaper brand. Like it was okay, but it was a cheaper brand.
Yeah.
Like ramen
Yeah.
nowadays is very clutch, but like we would get like a cheaper
Yeah.
brand, and she
Yeah.
would always we would almost always throughout the season. Sometimes we'd use like the little chive, like the dried
Ah,
vegetable
yeah, yeah,
part.
yeah. I'll use those. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but she would make like a ketchup and oyster sauce and maybe a little bit of vinegar and soy sauce thing, which is delicious, I must say. And that was most of the way we would eat our and it was like a very rare treat that she would make it for the family because it was like mom unhealthy or something. It's like just rare, kind of
Yeah,
special
yeah, yeah.
occasion.
Yeah.
And I think my rebellion was like I make it with the soup most of the time because why not? And
Ah,
it just
yeah,
and then
yeah,
you
yeah.
cook it with the, like you don't have to like pour the water, like drain it and then add other
Yeah.
sauces that you don't have when you're in college and so on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I think I add almost, but as throughout this episode, I have thought about, and I think this was the brand we used to buy. It came with this, it was like some kind of Chinese brand, and it came with this onion oil, and it was
Ah,
both like
uh-huh.
delicious and like so nasty, whatever this oil was. It was like, even at room temperature, it was almost a solid. It was just like whatever,
Wow.
not good
Yeah,
oil.
yeah,
But it had like kind of
yeah.
onion in it, and it was quite delicious. And sometimes I would like indulge and have like maybe like
Yeah. Uh-huh.
half of it or something, but it always felt too much to put all of it in.
Wow.
But it was
I
good. As
wonder if
someone
it
who
was like some
likes
sort of
onion
animal
oil.
fat.
Yeah, definitely. Like some kind of
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
yeah. But it did
Yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
did taste kind of good, I gotta say. But yeah, ramen seasoning. Can't go
Ramen
overboard with the ramen
seasoning.
seasoning.
Also, what you just said about, was it oyster sauce and ketchup did she mix? Or is
Yeah.
it oyster sauce and
Ketchup,
vinegar
oyster
she
sauce,
mix?
ketchup, maybe a little vinegar, maybe a little soy
Okay.
sauce.
Um, you don't know
Very
this, but
good.
now you will.
Mm.
Vivian, I will make that exact combination. I must now. Because like oyster sauce and ketchup sounds like
Hmm.
so delicious,
It's
and
so
I have
good.
ramen, and
It's so
I'm going
good.
to make this for myself. Okay,
Yeah.
done.
Yeah, and
This
it's
is gonna be a
perfect when
meal
you
I eat
make it with
today.
instant ramen because, like, the ramen's a little wet when you drain it. So, like, it just, like,
Yeah, it's
it kind of blends a little
perfect.
bit. That
So good.
that's what you do. Yep, that's ideal. If you little vinegar, if you have it.
Vinegar.
I think, sorry, this is now we're just sort of like rambling,
No, no, no,
freestyling,
this is
but
great. No, this is the best
um,
part.
I'm thinking, what's that like gobi cauliflower? What's it called? It's like that kind of. Do you know what I'm
Gobi
talking
is
about?
cauliflower. Is it?
Or
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Mongolian gobi cauliflower, something like that.
I think I have a sense of what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm forgetting the exact name. I didn't have it till I was like an adult. I think in Ann Arbor. I mean, maybe New York or something.
Uh-huh.
But
Mhm.
I loved it, and because it was just there's something that's so much like the flavor profile of ketchup and oyster
Ooh.
sauce with your. It's very
Is it?
similar.
Ah.
Maybe a little fried or
You know, you're the
something.
one who introduced me to oyster sauce.
Yes, I know this, which yeah. I'm
And
happy. Like it's
I
great.
still,
It's
to
like
this
one
day.
of the best all-purpose sauces there is.
Yeah,
Who
it's the
knows if
panda
it's
one.
what it's made of? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's made of just joy and good things. I mean, like,
But it just everything it seasons.
what is there to question?
It works on meat, it works on vegetables. And I think I told you, yeah, you either buy the brand with the panda or the lady on the boat. Those are the two brands. I mean, there's more, but those are
Panda is the one
fine.
I've been buying.
Panda, the one
Yeah,
with the panda
no,
on the
panda.
label's good.
Oh, so good, so good.
Okay, I'm sorry. Last one. I must because I'm just
Uh-huh,
if you could be like a flavor of noodles or ramen, what do
uh-huh,
you think is your
uh-huh.
ramen flavor?
My favorite when I was a kid was the
No,
shrimp.
that you are. What ramen flavor are you? We're
Oh,
recording this a
ramen
little late
flavor.
at night. I'm a
No, this
little
is
loopy.
great. This is
It's morning for you, Sophie.
great.
You're fine, but I'm free associating.
Okay, this is gonna sound super basic, but I think I'm the vegetable.
Like the vegetable broth one, like vegetable soup kind of package.
Yeah, it's like where the seasoning is like vegetable. Like I'm not sure what it is even.
That's good.
But you know, like that's the one I always buy. Like I used to buy the shrimp one a lot, but like I'm
Mm.
just gonna say I'm the one that I always buy because I can't because that's the one I am drawn to, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, that's
What
good.
about you?
You're like nourishing and not like you're not polarizing. you're, you're you're very highly acceptable. You go
What
with
about
many other
yours?
things. Okay, I
Oh,
the one that I buy the most now. You're right. That's the easiest way to get to the one that you are most
right?
like
Yeah.
is there's like a there's a there's a Singapore brand. I think it's a Singapore brand. It's Coca, and they have a tom yum flavor, and that is
Ooh.
very good.
Ooh.
It's hard to go back to other ones. Like, I think you
I
find
don't
your
know what
kind
that.
of yeah. You know what that is?
No, I have to try that.
It's like that Thai soup that's like it's like a lot of lime and lemongrass. It's like a very sour, tangy,
Ooh.
usually spicy kind of
Ooh.
soup.
Oh, that sounds like I'd love that because it's like, yeah, sour tangy. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Okay. Tom yum. Okay.
it's very good.
Okay. Okay. If I can find that, I'll try it. I must.
Yeah. Yeah. It's most. I don't know if I think of myself as like a sour tangy personality, but maybe like I think tangy's a little like fun, maybe. As I've spent time explaining that I'm not a fun person when it comes to children. Yeah.
No, I think it fits you. I think it fits you.
Just
I think it fits you.
a little off the beaten path.
Yeah. Yes. But also still very recognizable because, like, I mean, I haven't tried the Tom Yum one, but I feel like a lot, like, I think people, it feels like universally liked somehow. I
Not too
never
far
heard
out
anyone
there.
say they don't like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of those
But
like
at the same
classic.
time, it is tangy.
It's
But it
tangy.
is tangy. It does have like a, yeah. Oh, that's great.
And that was a good compliment. Nothing but good feelings when it comes to ramen
Oh my
seasoning.
goodness.
And with that, we would love to take your questions, listeners. Please send them in to noetiquettepodcast@gmail.com. Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next time here on No Etiquette. And until then, it is good etiquette to consider how much ramen seasoning packet you put in your ramen and try to think about that in relationship to your own behavior. Are you too much? Are you excessively flavorful to other people? Don't be that. Be just right. We will see you next time.
Good night.